Hi, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you about the abusive relationship that I was in. This is probably going to be cut into two separate videos. So please, for those of you who this is your first time here, my name is Lori, and I do videos about my personal journey. I've been sharing about things that happen in my life and my faith and all sorts of different things in my life. I hope that you will like this video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. So I met Neil back in high school, but I didn't really know him. And about 20 years later, he sent me a friend request on Facebook. I thought, okay, I remember the name. I didn't really know him, but whatever. I'll accept the friend request. Then he started chatting with me right away, asking me how my life has been, what's been going on, sharing about all the struggles that he had been in, and wanting to really make sure that I was a Christian. That was very important to him. He said that he had been with other women who were not Christians, and he was not going to even be friends with someone who was not a Christian now. I thought that was a bit strange for a first conversation, but I could tell that he had been hurt in his life. Eventually we decided to meet in person. We met for dinner one night in a town that was about halfway in between us. He lived about an hour and a half away from me, so that worked out pretty well. So I got to chat with him a little bit and find out more about him. I still wasn't quite sure about who he was, but he seemed like an alright guy. We started dating, and he missed me so much that he rearranged his schedule. I thought at first that that was kind of romantic, but now I realize it wasn't. So every Wednesday we both had the day off, and we would spend it together while my daughter was with her dad. He seemed like he was a good guy. He would buy me flowers and buy me new outfits and spend time with me, and he just really wanted to be with me all the time. Eventually we made the decision that we'd like to be closer because it was just too hard to be that far apart. Well, then he started using reverse psychology on me. I wasn't willing to move to his town because my daughter was in school. And he said, I won't be able to find a job there anyway. But he did. He ended up working with me. I was on housing at the time, and he said that he wouldn't be eligible to be added on to that. But that worked out too. Everything was happening that he said was not. So therefore, he moved in with me in my house, and things seemed to be pretty good. A couple weeks after he moved in, however, things started to change. He started telling me that I was embarrassing him, and I was talking down to him, and that I was just like all those other women in his life. I was training him on a job at work, and he got very angry with me because he said that I was treating him like he was stupid. No one else ever had a problem with me training them, and no one else at work seemed to think I was doing that. So we decided that it was best for me not to train him on anything else. Now I realize that was part of his superiority complex. This man needed to be in charge of everything, and for a woman to tell him how to do something was not acceptable. He kept telling me how he was afraid that I was going to hurt him too, just like everyone else. From this point on, everything was just like all the other women, just like everyone else. I couldn't be any different than them. That would be impossible. I was going to cheat on him just like everyone else. I was just like all those other women who cheated on him. And there were so many accusations, things that I will not even repeat because they're just not right. A couple months later, it was my birthday. He took me out shopping to buy me some new clothes and some other things he wanted to get for me. He always knew what the perfect outfit was for me. If I said that I liked something, well, that wasn't quite the right thing. He had to be the one to pick something out. I didn't realize till later, but when I saw how his ex was dressing, who happened to live in my same town, I realized that he was dressing me just like her. So while we were shopping for my birthday, a friend of mine was texting me while I was in the dressing room. I had left my phone out in the cart, and he saw the text. So he decided to play a joke or something and basically ruin my friendship with her. He told her that, acting like it was from me, he told her that my wonderful boyfriend is buying me new clothes for my birthday, and really sending a message of how great my boyfriend was. After that, she never really would talk to me. I tried to talk to her a few times, and she said that it was unacceptable the way that I had texted her. And if it wasn't me, then something was seriously wrong. She was right, but I just didn't know it at the time. At this point, I really didn't have any real friends. I had a few acquaintances, but no one I was real close to. And even if I did, I know that he would have ruined those relationships as well. There was a time or two that someone had invited me to go out and do something with them, and he told me, "Oh no, that person is a known pot smoker. Oh no, that person drinks too much. Oh no, that person does something else. You can't be friends with them." And he started getting in my head, and I started thinking, maybe he's right. Maybe these aren't the greatest people. But you know what? That's my choice. If I want to be friends with people, he doesn't have a right to tell me. But I didn't think that way at the time. He would tell me that he was all I ever needed. He would be my best friend. He would provide everything I needed. And there was no need for anyone else in my life. Kind of strange, huh? I started getting accusations from him, more about cheating, more specifically, people I worked with. He would get me a brand new outfit and take me into work to show me off to them. And then if one of the guys would say, "Hey, you look pretty good in that outfit," or just a simple innocent thing like that, he was convinced that we were sleeping together. And anytime that I was talking to one of the guys at work, that meant we were trying to hook up. Anytime I would talk to someone at church, one of the ladies, that meant I was bad-mouthing him. I would go to Bible studies, and he was convinced that the whole entire group of ladies, I had just told them about all the things he does. And then he said that they were telling their husbands. It actually got to the point that when we went to church on Sunday, he said that everyone in the entire church was staring at him. Because what I apparently told to all the ladies, and they shared with their husbands, now they were all looking at him. As you can see, he was really getting crazy. after that day, he said we were not going to that church anymore. Now I look back and realize the real reason was because he saw that I had some friends that I was connecting with. And he couldn't have that. So we tried going to a different church. It was a church that he had gone to while growing up for a short time. Well, I didn't really like it. It only had about 10 or 15 members there, and they were nice people and all, but I just didn't feel it. I really loved the group of people that I had already been going to church with. And this new church was just, I don't know, they were okay, but it wasn't for me. But he refused to go to the other church that I had liked, so we had to go to what he said. His anger was elevating and elevating. And he even would fight with me right in front of my kids. I told him a long time ago, just one rule I had, never fight in front of the kids. And he would always promise, but then his anger got the best of him, and guess what happened? The kids would escape to their rooms, and eventually they would come out after the fireworks were over. There's a night that I really remember well, and I'll probably never forget. He had gotten home late, and the front door had a screen door to it, and it didn't always lock perfectly. The wind would blow it open very easily. Well, when he came home, he noticed that the screen door was unlatched. So he, of course, assumed that I had a guy there that night while he was at work. So he comes barreling in, and he starts yelling at me. Not only was the door unlatched, but I had fallen asleep on the couch. He was working till midnight, and I had to get my daughter up for school in the morning. So there was no way I could stay awake. I need a lot of sleep, you know? But he did not accept that. So the fight began and just kept elevating and elevating. I went to take my daughter and leave, but he wouldn't let me out the door. So I ran to the other door, and he ran there first. We went back and forth about 2 or 3 times. And I remember one moment that I just stood there looking at him, and my daughter was clinging onto me very tightly as I was holding her. And I just couldn't help but think, his facial expression, he did not even look like the same person. Somehow I ended up getting out the other door. I was able to unlock it and get out the front door. I ran as fast as I could with my daughter in my arms, and he got in the car and drove up to me. He said, "We have to talk." So I agreed, and I got in the passenger seat while still holding my daughter. Only I wasn't really going to go back home with him. He got out of the car first, and I immediately locked the door. I took the key and started the car back up and took off to the only place I knew where to go, my babysitter. I got to my babysitter, and I went and I stayed with her for the night. I told her what had happened, and she told me that I could stay there and as long as I needed to. Dale ended up calling me later and then showing up at the door. My babysitter refused to let him in, and he had to leave. He kept yelling in at me about how we needed to talk, that we can get through this, and he loved me. And he even called me later to tell me he just needed a phone charger. I know that was a lie. The next day, I went to work, but I went in later because first I made a stop at the courthouse. I went in there and I filled out a protection order. It didn't take very long for them to approve it. I believe that day they went to court. And the following day, they served him his papers at my house. So he had to leave. Then over the next few days, things he had always said to me started getting in my head. He would always tell me how much he loved me and how no one else would be willing to do this for him. He'd tell me how much he was hurt by other people and just wanted to have a good relationship with someone who loved him back the same way. And all these different things started running through my head. Then I started feeling guilty. Maybe I overreacted. He does have a hard time with trust. Sad to say, I contacted him and I let him back. I had to undo the protection order so that he could move back in the house. I never realized how much a mistake that would be. Things got better for a while. He promised me that he would get help for his anger. He was going to go to anger management. And his mom even told me that they had looked some up and found out when and where they were at. And he was willing to travel 30 miles to go to it. He wasn't willing to take medications because he had bad experiences with that, but he did start taking some St. John's wort, and I did notice that there was a huge difference. We started having a normal relationship. He started making friends at work, and I was actually able to at least talk a little bit to people without him getting too paranoid. We started going to counseling, and I really thought that he was going to make some changes. Well, that didn't last for very long. The old self came back, the accusations, and all the other things. The anger, he would just get angry over the silliest little things. Like, who's going to pray first before we eat dinner? He wanted me to make his special dinner, and if I didn't make it just right, if it wasn't exactly perfect the way that his ex-wife had made it, then he'd get angry. I stopped really enjoying cooking, and it just became very difficult to make any meals for him because he wouldn't like it anyway. What was the point? The drama at work really started. This one girl there loved to instigate problems anyway, and this was just something else for her. She would tell him things, and they were total lies, and then she would tell me things that were total lies. And it ended up starting fights between us. Of course, I was pretty good about ignoring a lot of the things she said and not talking to him about it. But when he would start confronting me about the lies, then I would tell him what she had said to me. And then she became the enemy, and that made him more convinced that we had to move. So he started looking for another job from the town he had previously lived in. But I was going to have to move with him. I was not willing to move until the end of the school year. That didn't sit well with him. He wanted to go right now. I wanted out of this relationship, and he knew it. So he was going to stay put. He refused to leave, and since his name was on the lease, I had no way to kick him out. I felt completely trapped and alone. There was no way, nowhere to go, no way out, no one that I could talk to, and he would smother me so much. If I was 5 minutes late getting home, he would be calling me. I tried to call some other places where apartments were available, and I wasn't having any luck. But then again, he also was going to stick me with the bill for the lease if I moved out anyway. So for the time being, I walked on eggshells, did whatever he said, and I just got through one day at a time. That's all I could do at this point. I had just had to pray to God and hope that at some point something would happen that I could move out or that he would leave. And I really didn't see either one coming. Then I thought, maybe God wants me to help this guy. Maybe I'm the one that God intends to help this craziness go away. I just did not know what I was supposed to do or why I was stuck in this. His friends thought he was a great guy. Ever since he moved in, we would always go to church at every other Sunday in the town where he had lived. And we'd go in there and people would smile and talk with him, and they'd talk with me, and they'd say how we looked like such a great couple. I don't think they really knew what he was all about. His faith was all a facade, and they just didn't see it. You really don't get what a guy like this is like until you're in the same home with him. In the outside world, he appears normal and maybe even one of the best guys you know. But he's really not. So at this point, I had nothing and I had no one. There was no way out. For this week's video, I'm going to stop right there. And next week, I'm going to share with you how I got out. And how this whole entire event in my life brought me to the faith that I am in today. Next week, I'm going to share how I got out of this relationship, how God intervened, and how this entire event in my life brought me to my faith that I have in God. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit that bell icon and you'll be notified when next week's video comes up. And I really hope that you have a great week.